Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2019 horror thriller Feedback, a film that is co-written and directed by Pedro C. Alonso, and it stars Eddie Marsan as a late night talk radio host called Jarvis Dolan. It also stars Paul Anderson, Ivana Bacaro, Anthony Head, Richard Brake and Oliver Coppersmith. Now this film focuses on, as I mentioned, Eddie Marsan's character, Jarvis Dolan, who is a late night radio DJ, a bit of a shock jock. He focuses on current affairs, politics, conspiracies, all that kind of stuff. And he likes to think he tells it how it is, and he's not particularly popular because of that. And this one night he turns up for work to do his show as usual, and his studio is taken over by some masked assailants who basically force him to run the radio show as per their instructions, or they will become violent with all the other people in the studio. And if he doesn't cooperate, things will get violent very, very fast. And what they're trying to do is get to the truth of a few years ago, where there was an incident involving him and his former radio DJ partner Paul Anderson, who plays Andrew Wilde. There was an incident several years earlier in a hotel room where there were some young girls abused and raped, and these masked assailants are trying to get to the bottom of this. Right, so what did I think of Feedback? I have to say, this film came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't heard of anything about it, and after watching it, I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was brilliantly done. It's a British-made horror thriller, heavy on the thriller, with the horror here comes from the brutality on display when the violence begins, and it really will shock you, some of the violence in this film. It's not frequent, but when it happens, it's very, very brutal and very, very realistic, and it grabs your attention, to say the least. And it really makes its point in regards to the violence, in regards to the shock factor for both us, the audience member, and for Eddie Marsan's character, to give you the grim reality of the situation that he is in. I just thought it was a really, really well made film. The director here has got a real talent for building tension, and it's sometimes very subtle tension, from just what he's saying over the mic, and how he's communicating, and how he's trying to negotiate his way out of situations, right to the end of the scale where the violence starts and people start getting hurt. It literally does shock you, in a sense of how well it does that, because you know that these people aren't bluffing. It gets to the point in the film you think, well, these guys aren't bluffing. How is he ever going to get out of this situation if he doesn't do what they say they're going to do? Eddie Marsan here gives an absolutely fantastic performance. He's one of the best UK character actors, if you like. You'll have seen him in a lot of films. He's been in Deadpool 2. He's done loads and loads of films, and you'll recognise his face, but he's not one of these that stands out, because he's not got leading man looks and stuff. But my God, he gives a fantastic performance here. One of the standout performances of the year, I would say. I really, really enjoyed his performance of a character that you really, really feel sympathy for much of the film, to the point where you actually realise he's not what he is presenting at certain points in the film. He's a likeable, unlikable character, if that makes sense. And it's a really, really layered performance here by Eddie Marsan. The film manages to grab your attention throughout and hold it, just for the situation that he's in a sense of how they take over the studio and force him to run his program and to air all these truths and things like that, or what they claim to be truths. And I've got to say, it went like that at the time in this film. It really, really worked. I mean, yes, there are some issues with it, in a sense of, this is like a huge radio station. It's not like, a fly-by-night station. It's a hugely modern radio station with loads of studios, it would seem, and when this all starts, and especially when stuff starts going out on air, nobody comes to check that things are alright. You know, there would literally be millions of people, or at least hundreds of thousands of people listening to this broadcast, and the security in the building and all this kind of stuff, and nobody comes and checks out things, which I thought was a bit odd, you know what I mean? Even if they, you know, cut out the outside world from the studio, like I say, when it went out on air, they would know something was wrong and it was being held to ransom to a certain degree. But that's a minor niggle, you know. If we don't get that, we don't get the film, do we? So I think this is a really, really top-notch UK-based horror thriller. Like I say, it's heavy on the thriller, and the horror comes from the brutality of the violence on display here, and it really, really is very, very shocking at times. So this, like I said, this came out of nowhere for me. I really, really enjoyed it. I love sometimes when you just put a film on, you don't expect too much from it, you start watching it, and then it just grabs you and doesn't let go. So this is a really, really top-notch film, and I highly recommend it. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's another take on like the home invasion type thing, except it's not a home, it's a radio station, but it's done with really, really good effect. And the people doing with the masks on, you know, they've got pasts and histories, and they're well written enough so that you even have some understanding of their characters as well. It's not just one way, everybody's well written here, and it's a very, very good film, and one that I strongly recommend. So that is my review for Feedback. I hope you found it useful. Definitely check it out if you get the chance, and of course I'll see you back here on Screen Stars for more reviews.